the Nordic ecosystem in the fintech landscape have been a bit lazy because this narrative that we have been the ultimate digitalized region in Europe.
Yeah, I think the Nordic fintech landscape, it's going to get their own Nokia version. I remember when Olli-Pekka Kallasvuo, the CEO of Nokia, was on Forbes or something, with that old school phone, and he was so happy. It was 2007, and that was the year Apple launched.
Yeah.
So I think that's exactly what complacency looked like. I think that in the fintech world, especially the Nordics, I think we were really excited and driving change back in 2016, 2017, before the Payment Service Directive version 2 was coming along. Like there was some buzz and hype, and then it just came to nothing. Like I can't see anything new and fresh happening. And I think one of the key challenges is that I don't even understand why we're fat and happy, but we're acting like we're fat and happy, and yet there is nothing to be happy about. I think we could do so much better and really be a forerunner, but it's like we're lacking any kind of urgency to do anything. I think we've really lost or maybe put it like, I don't even know if we ever had, but collaboration isn't something that we usually do. I mean, like a good example of what not to do or how to really fuck things up is like P27. Like the whole notion of starting to build our own payment ecosystems in the Nordics, because who needs it and who gives a shit that if I can send you money or not, when we have a lot of good infrastructure. I think that's one of the key problems, that we are not collaborating. We are talking. There's a lot of events where the same people, including me, go on stage, talk about the same stuff, and then leave, and then we come back. But there isn't this sense of building. If you look at Revolut, and I'm not saying it's a good example, but if you look at Revolut and you look at Bynk and all of those neobanks or whatever you want to call it, there has been a systemic way of getting shit done, like really having this massive ambition. And maybe one of the problems we have is that we are lacking a vision. And when we don't have the vision, it becomes just a lot of talk and no action. And I think that's a bit sad, because from the outside world, we are kind of the golden standard of compliance and quality and trustworthiness. But it's like we're, fucking it up intentionally.
And that leads me actually to my next question. European sovereignty is just a little bit of a BS. It's like a narrative that we've been talking about for a long time, and then it just fits politicians. But I don't believe that European sovereignty and us coming together and fighting against the US giants or Chinese giants is necessarily the right way forward. I think it's more about how do we make sure that we stay innovative and do really cool things for people, regardless of where they are. And then, of course, you have Vero trying to do something, but would you then argue that that's like another version of P27? What's your thoughts?
Well, maybe short, yes, on the last question. I think one of the things, which is one of the big challenges, is that we actually think we have something to protect. And if we think about the fact that there are like 27 EEA countries and everyone wants to have their own opinion and feel special in some way, I had this kind of discussion on the sovereignty items and what is EU and what are we fighting for, or who are we fighting against, or protecting ourselves or whatever. And he said that the EU currently, it's like a massive book club. All the countries are sending the elite, meaning all the people that they don't want to have in government. Not maybe all, but too many have been chosen to send there to talk. And then if we think about all of the hardcore politicians and also people in government, nobody wants to fly to Brussels for 3-hour meeting or 5-hour meeting. So they tend to send in the most junior, which means that there are not many decisions made, which means that like from a book club, everyone can send in their paper, it gets compiled into one big paper, and then it's sent back to the countries. And then all the countries start wanking them and adding their own, gold-plated stuff around it, which means that from a company perspective, whether it is in financial business or whatever, it's really hard to even compete in the Nordics and in Europe because all rules are interpreted differently because they are often more or less directives giving direction or some kind of regulatory standards, but it's not at all focused on getting stuff done, which I think is a good example of I listened to Professor Guion, who won the Nobel Prize in economics recently, and he said that 30% of innovation is done in Europe, 2% of the commercialization. And then it becomes is it so that we like innovating, but we hate commercializing? I think it's probably we like innovating, but we don't know how to collaborate in order to commercialize. Because what I've seen now, as I've been a lot in the university world, and especially in the research to development projects, is that a massive amount of smart people, like next level people, but you need different type of people in order to get something big going. So again, coming back to collaboration, whether it's in from a university spin out to a corporate or company to countries, I think Europe's biggest problem is that, of course, we are regulating ourselves to death because we actually think that we have something worth fighting against instead of enabling competition, enabling new products to be tested and launched. And then if it goes to shit, we can do some regulation. And I was actually talking with one professor, and they had a team that had built some battery system. And she was like, yeah, don't take pictures, and we need to be protective of this. We need IPs and stuff. And I asked her, like, how easy is it to go to a shop and pay for food with IP? And she's like, I don't understand what you mean. I said, but seriously, shouldn't you just now focus also on selling it, getting it out there, getting the feedback from the users, etc. In general, I think we are like also in the schools teaching us to protect ourselves. And I said, okay, let's assume that you patent the hell out of it. And if you think about in the financial industry, like all the rules and regulations are for the people that play by those rules. Last time I checked, criminals don't give a shit, which means that in order for you to protect patents, you need a lot of money. So I think somehow we're losing track of what's the impact that we want to achieve, and we start wanking details that by themselves become obstacles instead of enablement.
Another thing I want to talk to you about is VCs and women founders. VCs and women founders, the 2% statistic. Do you think that this is becoming more of a performance than actually making progress?
Yeah, of course. Like that's a fact that 2% of the VC money goes to female-founded companies. Yeah. And then we start talking about that 2% as if that's the problem. No, that's a consequence. So can we start like unraveling that? Why come that doesn't happen? And I know a lazy argument would be that, of course, it's because most of the VCs are men and they are biased and they invest in stuff they can understand. I don't think that's a wrong narrative, but it's a very small part of the problem. Because what I've been looking into now is that personally, I haven't had problems in raising funds because I know what I want and I know what I need and I know how to explain it. And I always try to find so that I understand who is the listening party. Like when I go and pitch for funding to early stage VC or someone who knows financial industry or whatever, I try to make myself aware of who is listening so that I can speak in a way that it makes sense so that I get what I need, so that I can do what I need to get done. And as an example, there was this study done in Finland for 15-year-old girls. 100 girls were asked in school to spontaneously name something that they could become. no one named startup entrepreneur. And if you think about how the startup ecosystem has evolved throughout the last 10 years in Finland, it's massive. The aim has been that the export should be around 10 billion euros by 2030, and it was 12 billion now. So a lot is happening, and there are over 4,200 startups, but yet we don't talk about it. And it's very much male role models. And also in the Nordics, there aren't a lot of role models. So I do think that to all the ladies going with the diversity, equity, inclusion narrative, that the 2% is because all men are pigs, it's not a sustainable narrative. And also that won't help. Like if you're a female founder wanting to raise funds, you need advice on how to get funds, where to go, how to pitch, what to pitch for, how to build the whole scenario in the fundraising. You don't need a lot of information that, the likelihood of you getting funding, it's about 0. So give up now. And I think that's what's happening when we start talking about how hard it is, as if it was impossible. No, the 2% is only a reflection of what it is today, has nothing to do or very little to do with that it's actually hard for women to get funding. Like us women need to, first of all, build more companies, pitch for more funding. Because what I've also seen is that there are amazing women pitching, and then they pitch for, very low money. And, as an investor putting in a certain amount of money, let's say, and now I'm talking about like VCs, I'm not like Series A and above, not like pre-seed or seed. Let's say putting in 5 million or 1 million, it's the same effort. Like the work needs to be done is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So when a woman goes up there and says, hey, I'm going to scale my awesome company into the US, I need 750,000 euros. They are going to go like, yeah, you get kind of like 2 tickets back and forth. Like, what are you going to do with that? So I'm not saying that you should go and like, I want to raise 100 million. Of course, you need to understand context and such. But I do see that women are not thinking big enough. Like world domination, have a vision for fuck's sake. Stop bitching and start doing. Like have a like vision of, this is what good looks like. This is what category leader looks like. I had another awesome lady is building a massively interesting tech company. And I asked her, okay, so what's your game plan? Yeah, I'm going to be a category leader. I said, cool. What does that look like? Like in numbers, give me numbers. Yeah. And then she started explaining about what her revenue is today. I said, but that's not what I asked. I said, like, what does a category leader look like in numbers? And how do you start dissecting it to where I'm at today? What do I need to get done in order to get there? And what money will I need, et cetera, et cetera. And again, looking at the programs in the unis around the finance and et cetera, it's too much theory. Like, of course, it has to be theoretical. But I think also here, we could collaborate more amongst the startups and the fundraising and what to do and what not to do. But here I also think that we think that we're competing with each other, and we are not. Like, seriously, we are not. You can also collaborate with people you think that you're competing with, because in the end of the day, doing more together is better than doing nothing alone.
There's almost 2 camps. Like, I'm one of them. I don't necessarily want to go all on board with all the women in X, Y, and Z, because I feel like, how are we even better than the men then? We need to be inclusive on also bringing the men in as supporters and sponsors and so forth. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a good question and good observation. I think it went a bit the wrong way, because we had this era of wokeism that even the younger people are starting to get, like, for fuck's sake, can we just get stuff done instead of talking about who looks like what or identifies as what? It's very important to understand that it's underrepresented. So we need to talk about it, but it's not the only thing. So can we also start doing, because I feel that there's so much women here and there and tech and non-binary and all that, which is great. But if that isn't focused on raising awareness in how to make money so that you can make impact, it has no impact. And as such, it becomes greenwashing or whatever washing, pink washing, or whatever color you choose to put it. Like, it becomes BS. And I think I don't either want to be part of any bullshitting. So like, in general, I say, I want the next generation to save the world, to change the world, because otherwise we're fucked. And the fun fact is this: the world won't die, but humankind will. I think one of the things we, the older people, you and me, we're the older generation, not the dead ones, but like the semi half dead, like what if 1 foot in the grave people, is that we are so biased to seeing things and how they could be solved that we won't solve them. So the problems we've caused, it's hard for us to solve because we are just thinking about, for example, how do we do less harm instead of like, if you fucked up, clean it, fix it. So that's why I am very hopeful that the next generation will come and say, oh my God, please stop. And this is how we should do it. At the Nordic Scale Up Awards, and it was funny because one of the hosts was asking me, like, so what advice would you want to give to these scale-up companies? And you have like IQM and FlatPay and Luna. So I'm not going to start giving advice on how to scale to people who are fucking doing it.
Yeah.
But what I can say is a request that all the guys in the room kick our asses and support us women. And to all the women, start building and stop bitching.
Totally. I 100% agree. Monika, what worries you the most these days?
I'm a very positive person. My glass is half full. I'm not blind towards problems, but I believe that I can be part of fixing them and then having people to fix it. What worries me is that the younger generation will lose hope because the social media is full with lies. The whole algorithmic world from TikTok and Instagram and everything is built by our generation to addict people into lies and I mean negativity. So that is the only thing that concerns me. The good news is this: I've seen evidence that younger people are actually wanting to do less social media. They want to do more with human to human. And I think that's really good, because if we look back at 2010, like think about 2007, iPhone came, like, so the smartphone, and then like from 2010 and onwards, relationships has weakened and people spend less time with each other, which means that the childbirth has gone down because we keep fucking around with the phone instead of actually, being busy fucking. And that's bad. Like, humans need humans. Like you can't become more humans in a natural way without the interaction. So there's a lot of hope. I think the problem is just that a lot of hope is not visible because the algorithm feeds on negativity, because that's where the likes come in, etc. So the doom scrolling. But there are a lot of positive signs. So I think and I hope that this will be like a peak, and then we will realize that but we can already see it, that the screen time is starting to go down. And I think it's really good that we're starting to have the balls to say, like, we don't need phones in school. And I actually had a discussion again with the university world that as AI is coming, which is a good thing because it can do all of the noisy work, and us people to focus on the signal part, like the decisions, the insight, the dialogue, the B2B, like person to person stuff. I think that's a good thing. But also the universities should teach that, like, instead of having these bans, you can't use AI for this and you can't use AI for that, and you can't do. It's like, no, fuck that. What is the strategy? How can we use it? How should we use it? And maybe having, like some universities already have, like, exams should be verbal. Like, be able to pitch your thing, convince people, etc. So I'm hopeful. And the only thing that concerns me is that the youth believes the lies, that the world is a shit place, because it's not. The world is much better. And as I always say, like, if there's any book you need to read, it's the Hans Rosling factfulness, because it will give you context and understanding that what feels like shit to you is actually much better than it used to be, which means that it's going in the right direction and we should continue that path.
Yeah, 100%. What's a lie or a narrative that we are just have gotten completely wrong you want to straighten out in the industry?
There's so many. Customer centricity. It's like the banks, for example, and the finance. Like all the seminars and all the workshops and accelerate, you name it, all the what's nots and ifs and buts are always focused on either tech or compliance. Those are both the house. It's not the why and what.
Yes.
So I think we've gotten really wrong. And then again, if you look at the ones who are winning the game now, like Revolut, why is Revolut winning? It's because they are building themselves into becoming the WeChat of Europe, like getting in the customers to use it because it's easy, it makes sense, it helps my life. They've been so focused on adding services that when they turn on the fees, people are like, yeah, it doesn't matter because it makes my life. And I think that's where the banks fucked up. Like, seriously, like, tell me one customer of a, let's say, more traditional bank, legacy bank, that loves how it works. Like, seriously, give me one and give me the bank's name. And I'm sorry, like, I love Nordea, but like, let's be honest. Like, we lost the focus on who we are building it for. So instead we wank around or like compliance. We can't do it because of compliance. And then when the compliance narrative doesn't hold true, then we're like, yeah, we would want to do it, but tech, security, GDPR. And it's like, but that's not true. It's not true. It's a little bit like the narrative around the negatives in social media. It's like we talk about it so much that we believe it's true, and it paralyzes us. And that's why the banks have these massive compliance teams instead of having the teams that actually want to enable. And here I have to do a shout out to Enfuse. So my chief risk officer, Daniel Alter, like he's by far one of the best CROs I've ever met. And to all of the rest that I met, like, you're okay. But Dan is always like, give me the business case. Like, what do we want to achieve? And I'll tell you how we need to do. So what do we need to do to get it done? And I think that's the mindset that we've lost in the more traditional world. And also in the fintech startup community, we don't have a vision of what are we here to solve. And as such, we tend to, think that we're so awesome and be in our own small silos. And then what will happen is that the big techs and whatnots will come and eat us for lunch.
Breakfast.
Yeah, probably even that, like not even a snack. They will not even have to chew us because we're going to be so small.
It's like when you swallow a fly when you're on your bike, that type of
Yeah,
thing.
you're like, yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. What was that? I don't know. It was the, Nordic Fintech. Yeah.
The last question I have, when we met in Helsinki, Monika, you were talking about this, like, we need to start actually sharing and giving practical advice versus just chit-chatting. And I wanted to make sure to leave room for anything more practical, I suppose. I feel like you already shared a lot of practical advice, but just more if there's anything else, another opinion on a topic that you would like to address.
Everyone can suck less. To become better and change stuff for the better, it starts with one person. Like, you can actually do stuff. And I would really want people to have the courage to stop and think about, what do I want to do? What makes me proud? And then start actually doing it. And I have to say, one of the things that I did as a practical advice was I wrote my own eulogy. Like, I wrote down what I hope that people will say when I'm dead. That's my inner values. And it came down to, I really want people to say that she really helped a lot of people to get stuff done. And as a consequence, of course, stuff became better. They might say that, yeah, she cursed a lot, but hey, there's a Harvard business study that intelligent people curse. That gave at least me, again, the validation that as long as I raise my bar and I'm proud of myself, things will become better. If you are in a place where you don't feel that you are getting something or you're being able to give something, I think you're in the wrong room. So it's a you problem. I think you need to take responsibility of your happiness. And of course, there are short-term effects and long-term effects, but having the courage to do stuff is great. And what's the worst thing that can happen? Very seldomly, and I used to say it, and as we're talking about finance now, I used to always say, like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
Nobody can die.
No.
And now as I've pivoted into med tech and I will start injecting stuff in, I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to change that sentence. However, it's true for this part. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can succeed. Or then you are back at square one where you are already now. So trying is actually a good thing. And the only way to get out of fear is to do. So just do.
It's also easy to come up with all the excuses of why not to do something than actually just doing something.
There is probably a research on how much energy does getting stuff done while being a bit afraid versus procrastination. Like it's probably burning the same amount at least of energy, but the other one is negative and the other one is a bit like more positive. How much more beneficial is it to do something scared than being scared of doing it and not doing it?
Yeah. If that PhD report does not exist, that needs to be created, because that would just unlock everyone. Because the currency of like the negative energy of holding you back and, you know, being resentful for never actually doing something versus just doing something, it might actually just be worth just figuring it out and then fail, but then you still learn something from it.
No, exactly. And that's actually a good point. So anyone who is listening to it, who identifies as a researcher or PhD or whatever, like send us the link if there is this kind of study already done. And if there isn't, reach out, because I think you're right, like it's a numbers game. I think getting context and understanding would really benefit everyone, just like understanding that I'm gonna waste this amount of energy. Anyways, people like me, I like numbers. So it would be interesting to say to myself, like, hey, bitch, wake the fuck up, do, because you're losing equal, but you're actually gaining much more.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you.